The stars had always belonged to the Xantharian Galactic Empire. For 3,000 years, they had ruled over 10,000 star systems and 847 different species. Every time they found a new intelligent species, the pattern was the same. The aliens would either surrender quickly out of fear, or they would fight and lose. It was simple. It was predictable. It was the way things had always been. Ambassador Kel'Thuzor stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion and looked at the small blue planet on the view screen. He had done this 143 times before. First contact, integration, expansion of the Empire. He was very good at his job. His three eyes studied the data scrolling across the holographic displays. This species called themselves humans. They lived on a planet called Earth. They developed faster than light communication before we contacted them, his science officer reported. This is unusual. Kel'Thuzor nodded his large head. His purple skin reflected the light from the screens. How unusual? It has happened only twice before in recorded history, Ambassador. That was interesting. Most species were still using primitive radio waves when the Empire found them. These humans had somehow figured out quantum communication on their own. They were either very smart or very lucky. Kel'Thuzor suspected it was luck. It was almost always luck. What have we learned from their broadcast? He asked. His cultural attaché, a thin creature with too many arms, brought up several videos. They are violent, Ambassador. Their entertainment is filled with war, conflict, and death. They have divided their single planet into hundreds of separate governments that constantly argue with each other. They have nearly destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons at least twice. So they will fight us, Kel'Thuzor said. This was normal. Many species chose violence first. It never worked, but they always tried. Perhaps, the attaché said slowly. But Ambassador, there is something strange. They also broadcast something called comedy. They make jokes about everything, even about their own destruction. I do not understand it. Kel'Thuzor dismissed this with a wave of his clawed hand. Humor was irrelevant in negotiations. What mattered was power, and the Empire had more power than this small planet could imagine. Open a communication channel, he ordered. Standard first contact protocol. The channel opened. On the screen appeared a human female with brown skin and gray hair. She smiled widely, showing her teeth. Kel'Thuzor had learned that humans did this when they were happy, not when they were threatening to bite. Strange species, hello, the human said cheerfully. I'm Secretary General Maria Santos of the United Nations. Welcome to Earth. We've been hoping someone would call. Do you folks drink coffee? We have lots of coffee. Also tea if you prefer, or water. We're very good with water. Kel'Thuzor blinked all three eyes. This was not the standard response. Where was the fear? Where was the panic? He had studied exactly 412 first contact scenarios, and none of them started with offers of beverages. I am Ambassador Kel'Thuzor of the Xantharian Galactic Empire, he said in his most formal voice. We have come to discuss your planet's integration into the Empire. Oh, wonderful. Santos clapped her hands together. We'd love to have you visit. Can you land at UN headquarters in New York? I'll have someone prepare the main assembly hall. How many of you are coming? Do you need anything special? Different atmosphere? Gravity adjustments? We've been watching sci-fi movies for decades, so we're pretty prepared for this. Kel'Thuzor looked at his military advisor, Commander Vrax. The commander's red eyes showed confusion. They were both thinking the same thing. Why were the humans so excited? Did they not understand what was happening? We will land in 1 of your hours, Kel'Thuzor said carefully. Prepare your leaders. Fantastic. See you soon. Santos waved at the screen and the channel closed. Silence filled the bridge. Finally, the cultural attaché spoke. Sir, I believe they think this is a friendly visit. They will learn the truth soon enough, Kel'Thuzor said. But something felt wrong. In all his years of negotiations, he had never seen a species react like this. 1 hour later, the delegation shuttle descended toward Earth. Kel'Thuzor wore his full ceremonial armor, made from the scales of a star dragon. His energy shield shimmered around him. Behind him stood 20 of the Empire's finest warriors, each carrying weapons that could level a building. They were ready for anything. The shuttle landed on a large lawn in front of a glass building. Thousands of humans stood behind barriers, pointing devices at them and shouting excitedly. Kel'Thuzor recognized the devices as cameras. The humans were recording everything. More strange behavior. As the shuttle door opened, Secretary General Santos walked forward with several other humans. She was still smiling. She carried no weapons. She wore no armor. She walked up to Kel'Thuzor as if he were an old friend. "Ambassador, welcome to Earth." She held out her hand. Kel'Thuzor stared at the hand. He knew this gesture, a handshake, a sign of peace and agreement. But there was no agreement yet. There was only the Empire's demands and the planet's surrender. He took her hand carefully. It was warm and soft and very small. He could crush it easily, but she showed no fear at all. "Please come inside," Santos said. "We have the whole General Assembly waiting to meet you. Oh, and we prepared some food. We weren't sure what you eat, so we made a variety. There's sandwiches, fruits, vegetables, and some cooked meats. We avoided anything too spicy. First contact and all, you know. Don't want anyone getting sick?" Kel'Thuzor followed her inside, his warriors behind him. The building's interior was simple compared to Empire architecture, but it was clean and well organized. Humans lined the hallways, staring at the delegation with wide eyes. Some took pictures. Others waved. One small human child broke away from an adult and ran toward them. The child stopped a few feet away and looked up at Kel'Thuzor with enormous eyes. "Wow," the child said. "Are you a minion?" "A what?" Kel'Thuzor asked. "Like from the movies. You have 3 eyes." The child held up 3 fingers and giggled. An adult human rushed over and picked up the child. "I'm so sorry, Ambassador." "Kids, you know?" Kel'Thuzor did not know. But before he could respond, Secretary General Santos was ushering them into a large circular room with rows of seats rising up on all sides. Hundreds of humans sat in the seats, all watching the delegation enter. A few started clapping. Then more joined in. Soon the entire room was applauding. Commander Vrax leaned close to Kel'Thuzor. "Sir, I believe they are welcoming us." "I can see that, Commander," Kel'Thuzor said quietly. His 3 eyes scanned the room. No weapons, no shields, no defenses of any kind. These humans were either completely unprepared for what was about to happen, or they were the most confident species he had ever encountered. Santos gestured to a podium. "Ambassador, would you like to speak first? Tell us about your empire. We're all very excited to learn about galactic civilization." Kel'Thuzor walked to the podium. He activated his translator device and began his speech. The same speech he had given 143 times before. "People of Earth." His voice boomed across the room. "You are now aware of the greater galaxy. The Zintharian Empire spans 10,000 star systems. We have brought peace and order to hundreds of worlds. We offer you the chance to join this great civilization. In exchange, you must accept certain terms." He paused. This was usually where the fear started. But the humans just watched him with interest, as if he were giving a lecture at a school. "You must provide 30% of your planet's resources to the Empire. You must provide 15% of your population for service in Empire industries and military forces. You must dissolve your current governments and accept Empire law. In return, you will have our protection and access to our technology." He waited for the panic, the outrage, the desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, the silence broke with a sound Kel'Thuzor had never heard in a negotiation before. Laughter. It started with one human in the back, then another, then dozens. Soon the entire assembly hall was filled with humans laughing so hard that some were wiping tears from their eyes. Secretary General Santos stood up, her face red, trying to breathe. "I'm sorry," she gasped between laughs. "I'm so sorry. It's just, you flew all the way across the galaxy to try to tax us and draft our people?" She collapsed back into her chair, laughing even harder. Next to her, another delegate shouted, "Someone call the IRS. We've got competition." Kel'Thuzor stood frozen at the podium. In 3,000 years of Empire history, across 143 successful integrations, this had never happened before. The humans were laughing at him. The laughter finally stopped after what felt like an eternity. Kel'Thuzor stood at the podium, his purple skin darker with what his species experienced as embarrassment. Commander Vrax had his hand on his weapon, unsure if this was an insult that required a military response. Secretary General Santos wiped her eyes and stood up. She was still smiling, but she tried to look more serious. "Ambassador Kel'Thuzor, I apologize for our reaction, but you have to understand. You just described every failed empire that has ever existed on Earth. Romans, Mongols, British, you name it. They all wanted resources and soldiers. They all fell apart eventually. A delegate from France raised his hand. Also 30% of our resources? Have you seen how much we argue about a 2% tax increase? We once had riots over the price of bread. And 15% of our population? An Indian delegate shook his head. We can't even agree on which side of the road to drive on. Some countries go left, others go right. You want us to coordinate sending 15% of 8 billion people somewhere? Kel'Thuzor felt his confidence shaking. This was not how negotiations worked. The smaller species was supposed to be afraid, not making jokes. He decided to try again. Perhaps you do not understand, he said slowly as if speaking to children. The Empire is vast. We have technology beyond your imagination. We have weapons that can destroy planets. You cannot resist us. Oh, we believe you, Santos said, sitting back down. But here's the thing. We can't even resist ourselves. Do you know how many times we've almost destroyed our own planet? At least a dozen times in the last century alone. We've got enough nuclear weapons to turn this place into a parking lot, and somehow we haven't used them. That's not because we're peaceful. That's because we're stubborn. We refuse to let anyone destroy us, even ourselves. Commander Vrax stepped forward. His red eyes glowed with intensity. Perhaps a demonstration is needed. He activated a holographic projector. Above the assembly hall, images appeared. Massive ships destroying cities. Planets being harvested for resources. Species that had resisted the Empire now extinct. The humans watched quietly. Some looked disturbed. Others took notes. One delegate was recording the hologram with his phone. When the demonstration ended, a military general from the United States stood up. That's impressive, really, but I have a question. Are you hiring? Vrax blinked his eyes in confusion. What? For your Empire military. Are you hiring? Because I know some pilots who would love to fly those ships. The commute looks better than rush hour traffic in Los Angeles. Several other delegates laughed. A Chinese delegate added, also, what's the pay like? Do you have a pension plan? Healthcare? Kel'Thuzor felt something he had rarely experienced in his long career. Complete confusion. You want to join our military? Well, some of us might, the American general shrugged. If the benefits are good. But that's individual choice, not government policy. See, that's the thing about humans. We don't really like being told what to do. Even our own governments have trouble with that. Santos stood up again. Ambassador, let me make a counteroffer. How about we join your empire as an independent member state, like a partnership instead of a conquest? The Empire does not do partnerships, Kel'Thuzor said firmly. Finally, something he could control. You either join completely or you are considered hostile. Okay, but hear me out, Santos continued. She walked closer to the podium. You want resources, right? We can trade for those. Fair exchange. You want workers? We can set up employment programs. People can choose to work for the Empire if they want. You get what you need, we maintain our sovereignty, everyone's happy. And in exchange? Kel'Thuzor asked, curious despite himself. In exchange, you share your technology with us, especially that faster-than-light travel. Do you know how much that would help us? We could finally start colonizing other planets and take the pressure off Earth. Also, our climate is a disaster right now. If you have any environmental technology, we would pay very well for that. A British delegate stood up. Plus, think about it from a business perspective. If you conquer us, you spend resources on military occupation. You deal with resistance movements. You have to manage a hostile population. That's expensive and annoying. But if you trade with us, we do all the work ourselves. We're very good at working. Humans are excellent at two things: working too hard and complaining about working too hard. Kel'Thuzor looked at his advisors. They all seemed as confused as he felt. His cultural attaché pulled up data on his tablet. Sir, this is unprecedented. No species has ever proposed remaining independent while joining the Empire. Because it is not allowed, Kel'Thuzor said firmly. He turned back to the assembly. The Empire has rules. These rules have existed for 3,000 years. We do not negotiate. You either accept our terms or face the consequences. A thin man with glasses stood up. He wore a simple suit and carried a tablet. Hi, Ambassador. I'm Dr. Chen. I teach history at Oxford University. Can I ask a question? You may speak, Kel'Thuzor said. Have you ever considered that your rules might be outdated? 3,000 years is a long time. Things change. Species evolve. What worked in the past might not work now. Our rules have brought peace to the galaxy, Kel'Thuzor replied. Have they, though? Dr. Chen adjusted his glasses. Or have they just brought obedience? There's a difference. Peace means people genuinely get along. Obedience means they do what you say because they're afraid. Fear doesn't last forever. Several delegates nodded in agreement. Kel'Thuzor felt his frustration growing. Your philosophy is irrelevant. We have the power. That is what matters. Okay, sure, Santos said. But answer me this. Why are you here talking to us if you were just going to conquer us anyway? You could have just attacked. But you didn't. You came to negotiate. That means somewhere in your empire, someone believes that talking is better than fighting. So let's talk. Before Kel'Thuzor could respond, one of his warriors spoke urgently into his communicator. The warrior turned to the ambassador. Sir, we have a situation. The humans have been scanning our shuttle with various instruments since we landed. Their scientists are outside examining the hull. What? Kel'Thuzor felt alarm spike through him. Stop them immediately! We tried, sir. They said they were just looking. They promised not to touch anything. But, sir, they have already determined the basic composition of our hull material and are theorizing about our propulsion system. Santos looked sheepish. Ah, yes. Sorry about that. Our scientists get excited. It's not every day an alien spaceship lands on your planet. They're probably taking measurements and samples and all that. Very standard scientific procedure. That is classified Empire technology, Frax roared. Well, it's sitting on our lawn, a German delegate said. Public property. Freedom of scientific inquiry and all that. If you didn't want us looking at it, you probably should have parked somewhere private. Kel'Thuzor pulled up a communication screen and contacted his shuttle crew. Sure enough, dozens of humans in white coats surrounded the ship, pointing various devices at it. They were taking photographs, measurements, and one woman was even crawling underneath the shuttle with a flashlight. This is unacceptable, Kel'Thuzor said. Is it, though? Santos asked. You came to our planet uninvited. You demanded we give you our resources and our people, but when we get curious about your technology, suddenly that's not okay. Seems a bit unfair, don't you think? The assembly hall erupted in agreement. Delegates were nodding and talking among themselves. Kel'Thuzor realized he was losing control of the situation. This had never happened before. Species were supposed to be intimidated. They were supposed to surrender. They were not supposed to argue about fairness and property rights. How about this? A Japanese delegate stood up. Why don't you invite us to see your ship? The big one, I mean. Your mothership. Give us a tour. Show us what the Empire has to offer. Maybe if we see how advanced you are, we'll be more interested in joining. Several other delegates agreed enthusiastically. Yes, a tour. We want to see the spaceship. Kel'Thuzor looked at Commander Vrax. The military commander shook his head. Ambassador, I strongly advise against this. Letting humans aboard the Eternal Dominion could compromise security. But as Kel'Thuzor looked at the eager faces of the human delegates, he realized something. These people were not afraid. Threats were not working. Intimidation was not working. Traditional Empire tactics were completely failing. Maybe it was time to try something different. Very well, he said slowly. I will invite a small delegation to tour the Eternal Dominion. Perhaps when you see the full might of the Empire, you will understand why resistance is futile. The humans cheered and clapped. Santos beamed at him. Wonderful. How about tomorrow evening? That gives us time to prepare. Oh, and Ambassador, we'll bring food. It's traditional on Earth to bring food when you visit someone. Do you folks eat regular food or do you need something special? We eat food, Kel'Thuzor said, feeling exhausted. How had a simple integration negotiation turned into a dinner party? Perfect. We'll bring a variety. This is so exciting. Santos was practically bouncing. As the meeting ended and the humans filed out, still chattering excitedly about the tour, Kel'Thuzor stood at the podium feeling something he had never felt before in his long diplomatic career. Complete and total bewilderment, Commander Vrax approached him. Sir, what just the human delegation arrived at the Eternal Dominion's shuttle bay exactly on time. Kel'Thuzor had expected perhaps 10 humans, maybe 20 at most. Instead, 50 humans poured out of 3 shuttles, chattering excitedly and carrying large containers that smelled strongly of various foods. Secretary General Santos led the group, wearing a formal dress instead of her usual business suit. Ambassador, thank you so much for hosting us. We brought dinner. Well, several dinners, actually. We couldn't decide what to bring, so we brought everything. Kel'Thuzor watched as humans unpacked container after container. There were round flat things they called pizza, folded items called tacos, small pieces of cooked meat covered in red sauce called wings, and dozens of other items he could not identify. The smells were overwhelming. "This is not a party," Commander Vrax muttered to Kel'Thuzor. "This was supposed to be a demonstration of power." "I know, Commander," Kel'Thuzor sighed, but the humans were already spreading out, looking at everything with wide eyes full of wonder. They pointed at the walls, the technology, the other Empire species crew members. Several humans were taking pictures of everything. "Shall we begin the tour?" Kel'Thuzor tried to regain some control of the situation. "Yes, please," Santos said. "But first, is there somewhere we can set up the food?" "We brought plates and utensils, too. Oh, and napkins. Very important. Some of this food is messy." Against his better judgment, Kel'Thuzor had the crew set up tables in one of the ship's large conference rooms. The humans immediately began arranging food, talking and laughing the entire time. They moved with easy confidence as if they had been on alien spaceships their entire lives. The tour began in the ship's engineering section. Kel'Thuzor's chief engineer, a brilliant Xantharian named Molth, explained how the ship's FTL drive worked. He spoke about quantum field manipulation and dimensional folding, using complex technical terms. The humans listened carefully. One woman who introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Chen raised her hand. "So if I understand correctly, you're creating a bubble of compressed space-time around the ship? That's actually similar to an old Earth theory called the Alcubierre drive." Molth's three eyes widened. "You know of this concept?" "Well, theoretically," Dr. Chen said. "We could never build it because it requires exotic matter and massive amounts of energy. How did you solve the energy problem?" Within minutes, Molth and Dr. Chen were deep in technical conversation, drawing diagrams on a holographic display. Other human scientists joined in, asking questions and offering ideas. Kel'Thuzor watched in amazement as his chief engineer actually seemed excited to talk to these primitive aliens. "Your energy distribution system is inefficient," Dr. Chen said, pointing at a schematic. "See this junction here? You're losing about 15% of your power to heat dispersion. If you rerouted through a secondary cooling system and adjusted the flow rate, you could improve efficiency significantly." Molth stared at the diagram. That might actually work. How did you see that so quickly?" Dr. Chen shrugged. "I design nuclear reactors. Heat management is kind of my thing. Also, I've been dealing with inefficient government systems my whole life. I'm very good at finding waste." As the tour continued, similar scenes played out everywhere. In the medical bay, human doctors were fascinated by Empire healing technology, but they also pointed out that some treatments could be improved with Earth pharmaceutical knowledge. In the weapons room, military officers discussed the physics of energy. Weapons while simultaneously explaining how certain human ballistic weapons could be useful in situations where energy shields were active. The time they reached the ship's bridge, Kel'Thuzor was feeling overwhelmed. The humans were not intimidated by Empire technology. They were analyzing it, questioning it, and somehow finding ways to improve it. This was not supposed to happen. "And this is our navigation system," Kel'Thuzor explained, gesturing to the main display showing star charts. "It tracks all 10,000 systems in the Empire." "Impressive," said a human astronomer. "But why do you use a three-dimensional projection? Space is four-dimensional if you include time. Have you considered a 4D navigation system that could plot courses accounting for temporal distortions near massive objects?" The Xantharian navigator looked confused. "We have never needed such a system." "You've never needed it because you didn't think of it," the human replied kindly. "It's okay. Humans didn't think of a lot of things until we had to. Necessity is the mother of invention and all that." Commander Vrax pulled Kel'Thuzor aside. "Sir, this is becoming a problem. The humans are not respecting our superiority. They keep suggesting improvements. Some of their ideas are actually good." "I know, Commander," Kel'Thuzor said quietly. "But what can we do?" "They're not breaking any rules. They are just talking." The situation grew more complicated during dinner. The humans had insisted that everyone try the various foods they brought. At first, the Xantharian crew was reluctant. But curiosity won out, and soon everyone was trying different items. The pizza was a massive hit. Several crew members went back for second and third slices. The tacos caused a debate about whether the crunchy or soft version was better. The wings created an entire mathematical discussion about the heat levels of different sauces. "This ranch thing," one Xantharian officer said, holding up a bottle of white sauce. "What is it made from?" Buttermilk, herbs, and magic, a human answered. Actually, mostly buttermilk, but it goes with everything. The officer proceeded to put ranch sauce on pizza, tacos, and wings. Other crew members followed. Within an hour, the highly disciplined Zintharian crew had abandoned all protocol and were engaged in enthusiastic discussions about Earth food. Then someone made a critical mistake. A human general asked, "So what do you folks do for fun?" This led to the cultural attaché presenting an ancient Zintharian opera. It was 4,000 years old, full of complex emotional themes and sophisticated musical arrangements. The humans sat politely through the entire 2-hour performance. They clapped respectfully when it ended. "That was beautiful," Santos said. "Very moving. The harmony was incredible." "Thank you," the cultural attaché preened. "It is one of our greatest artistic achievements." "Cool. Want to hear some human music?" A young human pulled out a small device and started playing something called a sea shanty. It was simple, rhythmic, and somehow incredibly catchy. The lyrics were about whaling and ships and something called Wellerman. Within 15 minutes, half the bridge crew was singing along. The song had only a few verses and was far simpler than the opera, but everyone seemed to enjoy it more. Soon humans were teaching Zintharians the words, and Zintharians were teaching humans other empire songs. Kel'Thuzor found himself tapping his foot to the rhythm. He stopped immediately when he realized what he was doing. The breaking point came when Dr. Chen asked to see the engine room. Molth, who had become quite friendly with the human scientist, agreed immediately. Kel'Thuzor followed, concerned about what might happen. Dr. Chen walked around the massive engine core, examining everything with her trained eye. She pulled out a tablet and took some measurements. Then she sat down and started drawing diagrams. 20 minutes later, she called Molth over. "Okay, so I've been thinking about your energy efficiency problem. You're using a trilateral power distribution system, right?" "Yes," Molth confirmed. "It is standard Empire design." "Right, but what if you used a cascading distribution network instead? Look at this," she showed him her tablet. "You could reduce energy loss by approximately 12%, increase output stability, and as a bonus, the system would be easier to maintain because the nodes are more accessible." Molth stared at the diagram. His 3 eyes moved rapidly as he processed the information. This is genius. Why did we never think of this?" "Because you didn't need to," Dr. Chen said kindly. "Your system works. It's been working for thousands of years. You had no reason to change it. But humans are obsessed with efficiency. We have to be. Our planet has limited resources and we have 8 billion people competing for them. We've spent centuries figuring out how to do more with less." "How long have you been an engineer?" Molth asked. "About 20 years professionally. But I've been taking things apart and putting them back together since I was 5 years old. My parents hated it. I destroyed so many toasters." By the end of the evening, as the humans prepared to return to Earth, Kel'Thuzor's carefully planned demonstration of Empire superiority had turned into something else entirely. His crew was laughing with humans, exchanging contact information, and making plans to continue various technical discussions. Secretary General Santos approached him as her delegation was leaving. "Thank you again, Ambassador. This was wonderful. Your technology is amazing. Your culture is fascinating. We learned so much." "You are welcome," Kel'Thuzor said automatically. Then he added, "Your people are very curious." "Oh, that's the nicest way anyone's ever described us," Santos laughed. "Usually people say we're annoying or nosy or too aggressive. But yes, we're curious. Sometimes too curious for our own." The quantum relay message from the High Council arrived at exactly the wrong moment. Kel'Thuzor was in his quarters, drinking something the humans called coffee. He had tried it during the dinner party and now he was addicted. The bitter, energizing beverage was remarkable. He made a mental note to include coffee in any future trade agreements. The message began immediately. The holographic projection showed the 12 members of the High Council, their expressions severe. High Chancellor Vexnor spoke first, her 4 eyes glowing with anger. "Ambassador Kel'Thuzor, we have been monitoring your negotiations with the human planet Earth. Your progress is unacceptable." Kel'Thuzor set down his coffee cup carefully. "High Chancellor, the situation is more complex than anticipated." "Complex?" Another council member interrupted. "You have spent 3 days with these humans." 3 days? You should have integrated them on day 1. Instead, we are receiving reports that your crew is singing primitive human songs and requesting recipe exchanges. The humans are different, Kel'Thuzor tried to explain. They do not respond to standard protocols. They are not afraid of us. They are not impressed by our technology. They keep trying to improve everything we show them. Then you have failed, High Chancellor Vexnor said coldly. We are dispatching War Master Thalcon with a battle fleet. He will demonstrate what happens to species that refuse to cooperate. Perhaps when the humans see real military power, they will be more reasonable. High Chancellor, I strongly advise against this, Kel'Thuzor said urgently. The humans are unpredictable. A show of force might not have the desired effect. Your advice is noted and rejected, Vexnor replied. War Master Thalcon will arrive within one of their days. We expect this situation to be resolved quickly and permanently. The transmission ended. Kel'Thuzor sat back in his chair and picked up his coffee again. He had a very bad feeling about this. Commander Vrax entered the quarters. Sir, I received notification about the fleet. Should I alert the crew? Yes, Commander. And Vrax? Prepare for anything. I suspect the humans will not react the way the High Council expects. What do you mean, sir? I mean that in 3 days I have learned that humans are completely insane. They do not follow any logical pattern of behavior. They make jokes when they should be afraid. They improve technology when they should be impressed by it. They bring food to serious negotiations. I have no idea what they will do when a war fleet arrives. Kel'Thuzor was proven correct the next day. War Master Thalcon's fleet arrived in Earth's orbit with 500 warships arranged in perfect attack formation. The fleet was massive, intimidating, and designed to make any species immediately surrender. The humans' first response was to broadcast the fleet's arrival live on something called the Internet. Within minutes, images of the war fleet were everywhere, but instead of panic, Kel'Thuzor watched in horror as humans started making jokes about it. Someone took a picture of the fleet and added text that said, POV. You asked your mom for McDonald's and she said there's food at home. Kel'Thuzor did not understand what McDonald's was, but millions of humans seemed to find this hilarious. Another image showed the fleet photoshopped into a parking lot with the caption, Sir, you can't park there. More laughter. A human created a video comparing the fleet's arrival to various movies, complete with dramatic music. The video ended with a clip of someone saying, well, this is awkward. Why are they laughing? Commander Vrax asked, watching the broadcast in disbelief. Because they are humans, Kel'Thuzor replied. I told you they were insane. War Master Thalcon opened a communication channel to Earth's governments. His face appeared on screens worldwide. He was a massive Xantharian, heavily scarred from countless battles, wearing armor made from the bones of enemies. He was designed to be terrifying. People of Earth, his voice boomed. I am War Master Thalcon of the Xantharian Galactic Empire. You have refused to surrender to Ambassador Kel'Thuzor. This is your final warning. Submit to the Empire immediately, or we will demonstrate our military power. There was a pause. Then a response came from the United Nations. Hello, War Master Thalcon. This is the UN Secretary's office. Secretary General Santos is currently in a meeting. Would you like to leave a message? Alternatively, you can fill out a contact form on our website. Someone will get back to you within 2 to 3 business days. Thalcon's face turned a darker shade of purple. This is not a request. This is a demand. You will surrender now. Sir, I understand you're upset, but the Secretary General really is in a meeting. It's about climate change. Very important. Can this wait? Also, it's Tuesday afternoon. Most world leaders are in meetings on Tuesday afternoons. Maybe try calling back tomorrow morning? The transmission ended. Kel'Thuzor put his head in his hands. All 3 of his hands. This was going to be a disaster. War Master Thalcon was furious. Kel'Thuzor received an immediate communication from him. Ambassador, what is wrong with these creatures? Do they not understand that I can destroy their planet? They understand, War Master. They just do not seem to care very much. Then I will make them care. I am going to demonstrate our weapons on one of their uninhabited islands. That will show them what we are capable of. War Master, I really do not think that is a good idea. Your opinion is noted, Ambassador. Prepare to watch how a real military leader handles a situation. The demonstration was scheduled for the next day. War Master Thalcon chose a small uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean. He announced the demonstration time so all of Earth could watch. He wanted them to see what Empire weapons could do, and watch they did. Every news network on Earth broadcasted the demonstration live. Millions of humans tuned in to see what would happen. The war fleet moved into position. One massive ship powered up its primary weapon. A beam of pure energy shot down from orbit and hit the island. There was a tremendous explosion. When the smoke cleared, the island was gone, completely vaporized. Nothing remained but a circle of boiling water. It was an impressive demonstration of power. Any reasonable species would have been terrified. The humans responded by adding sports commentary to the footage. "Ooh, and there it goes," a commentator shouted enthusiastically. "That's a direct hit, Jim. The island is completely destroyed. Let's see the instant replay." Another commentator chimed in. "That's going to cost them some serious points for environmental damage, Bob. I'm seeing reports that the explosion disrupted local fish migration patterns. The International Environmental Court is not going to be happy about this." "You're absolutely right, Jim. Also, I'm getting word that several maritime lawyers are already preparing lawsuits for the destruction of international waters. This could get expensive for the Empire." A third commentator added, "And let's not forget the scientific angle here, folks. Multiple universities have already calculated the energy output of that weapon. 3 different research teams are publishing papers about it as we speak. Very exciting stuff for the physics community." Kel'Thuzor watched as humans turned the terrifying weapons demonstration into entertainment and education. Scientists were analyzing the weapon. Lawyers were discussing legal ramifications. Someone had already created a video game where you could shoot energy beams at islands. The internet was full of jokes. Not gonna lie, that was pretty cool. Do they do birthday parties? At least they picked an uninhabited island. That's considerate for an evil empire. My ex had more destructive power and she only needed words. War Master Thalcon contacted Kel'Thuzor again. His face showed complete confusion. "Ambassador, why are they not afraid? We just destroyed an island. We demonstrated the power to end their civilization." "Yes, War Master. They saw that. They were very impressed. Then why are they making jokes about it?" "Because they are humans, War Master. This is what they do." A human military transmission came through on an open channel. Kel'Thuzor recognized the American general from the earlier meetings. "Hey, War Master Thalcon. Nice demonstration. That was a good shot. But can I show you something? Just for comparison purposes?" The general proceeded to send video files. They showed human nuclear weapons tests, massive explosions that had destroyed entire islands during the 20th century. Then he showed footage of volcanic eruptions, Mount St. Helens, Krakatoa, massive natural explosions that dwarfed the Empire weapon demonstration. "See, the thing is," the general continued, "we live on a planet that's trying to kill us. We have volcanoes that explode regularly. We have hurricanes that level cities. We have earthquakes that split the ground open. We have tsunamis that wash away entire coastlines. Oh, and we did all that nuclear weapons testing ourselves. We almost destroyed our own planet at least a dozen times." The general paused. "You think you scare us? We're already terrified. Every day. Of everything. We have anxiety as a species. We've just learned to laugh about it because the alternative is crying. And crying doesn't help." Another transmission came from a different nation. "Also, we live on a ball of molten rock with a paper-thin crust floating in space. Our planet could kill us at any moment. The sun could hit us with a solar flare. An asteroid could slam into us. Hell, our own moon used to be part of Earth until something hit us so hard that a piece broke off. We're basically living in a cosmic shooting gallery, and we're still here." A British scientist added, "Furthermore, we evolved from prey animals. Everything on our PL, the High Council meeting, was not going well." Kel'Thuzor stood before the holographic projections of the 12 council members, knowing that what he was about to say would change everything. "Let me understand this correctly," High Chancellor Vexnor said slowly. "You are recommending that we do not integrate Earth through traditional methods. Instead, you want us to establish what you call a trade partnership with them." "Yes, High Chancellor," Kel'Thuzor confirmed. "This is unprecedented," another council member said. "In 3,000 years, we have never made exceptions to our integration protocols. With respect, High Chancellor, Earth is unprecedented. In 3,000 years, we have never encountered a species like humans. They are primitive," Vexnor argued. "They have barely left their own planet. They do not even have a unified government. Why should we treat them differently?" Kel'Thuzor took a deep breath. This was the moment. Because in less than 1 week, they have accomplished the following. They have reverse-engineered 17 of our technologies. They have written 3 best-selling novels about the Empire, which are mostly inaccurate but extremely entertaining. They have created a new sport that combines their basketball with our gravity manipulation. They have somehow hacked into our quantum network and sent us pictures of small Earth animals called cats. And they have started a joint human-alien restaurant chain that is already more profitable than 12 of our industrial planets. Silence filled the council chamber. Finally, one council member spoke. They hacked our quantum network? Yes, we still do not know how they did it. Our best security experts are investigating. And the restaurant chain? Another asked. It is called Galaxy Burgers. They serve something called a bacon cheeseburger with zero-gravity fries. I tried it. It is excellent. Half of my crew has become regular customers. High Chancellor Vexnor looked tired. Ambassador, are you telling me that a primitive species has infiltrated our systems, stolen our technology, and turned our crew into fast food customers in less than a week? Yes, High Chancellor, but it gets more complicated. How could it possibly get more complicated? Kel'Thuzor activated a new holographic display. The humans have been broadcasting everything that happened during our negotiations. The entire galaxy has been watching. We have received communications from 47 different member species. 20 of them are asking why the humans get special treatment. 15 are asking if they can also become independent member states. 8 are requesting human technology. And 4 are asking for the recipe for something called pizza. The council members looked at each other. This was a crisis they had never imagined. Furthermore, Kel'Thuzor continued, our intelligence reports that several member species are now questioning why they accepted Empire rule in the first place. The humans have demonstrated that negotiation is possible. That independence is possible. High Chancellor, we may be facing the beginning of a fundamental shift in how the Empire operates. This is unacceptable, Vexnor said, but her voice lacked its usual authority. She sounded uncertain. With respect, High Chancellor, I believe it is inevitable. The galaxy has changed. Technology has advanced. Communication is faster and more widespread than ever before. The old methods of conquest and forced integration may no longer be sustainable. Kel'Thuzor pulled up more data. I have been analyzing the past 1,000 years of Empire history. Do you know how many rebellions we have had to suppress? 47. Do you know how much those military operations cost? Trillions of credits. Do you know how many resources we spend on occupation forces across 10,000 systems? Nearly 30% of our entire military budget. The council was listening now. Kel'Thuzor pressed his advantage. The humans offer a different model. Trade partnership. Mutual benefit. They give us resources and innovation. We give them technology and protection. Nobody is conquered. Nobody is occupied. Nobody rebels. It is more efficient in every measurable way. But it undermines our authority, one council member argued. If we make exceptions for Earth, every species will demand the same treatment. Perhaps they should have it, Kel'Thuzor said quietly. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. This was heresy. This went against 3,000 years of tradition, but Kel'Thuzor was not finished. I have spoken extensively with Secretary General Santos. She said something that I cannot stop thinking about. She said that empires built on fear eventually fall, but partnerships built on mutual benefit can last forever. The humans have a saying, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. What are flies? A council member asked, confused. Small insects. Not important. The point is that the humans believe cooperation is more effective than conquest, and after spending a week with them, I am beginning to agree. High Chancellor Vexnor stood up from her seat. The hologram flickered. Ambassador Kel'Thuzor, what you are suggesting is revolutionary. It would change everything about how our empire functions. I know, High Chancellor. It would require us to admit that our methods have been flawed. Yes, High Chancellor. It would require us to negotiate with species we previously considered inferior. Yes, High Chancellor. There was a long silence. Then Vexnor surprised everyone. Tell me more about this pizza. 3 months later, Kel'Thuzor stood in the same UN General Assembly Hall where this entire strange journey had begun. But everything was different now. The hall was filled not just with humans, but with representatives from 20 different Empire species. The Empire had just signed the Treaty of Earth, establishing the first cooperative independent member state in galactic history. Secretary General Santos stood at the podium, grinning widely. This is a historic day. The Zintharian Galactic Empire and Earth have established a new kind of relationship, one based on trade, mutual respect, and shared benefit. We are not subjects. We are partners. The crowd applauded. Kel'Thuzor sat in the front row drinking coffee and eating a slice of pizza. He had become quite fond of both, Santos continued. I want to thank Ambassador Kel'Thuzor for his patience, his open-mindedness, and his willingness to try something new. He came here expecting to conquer us. Instead, he ended up negotiating the most important treaty in galactic history. Plus, he introduced us to faster-than-light travel, which is going to be really helpful for our climate refugee relocation program. More applause. Kel'Thuzor stood and bowed slightly. Commander Vrax, sitting next to him, leaned over and whispered, Sir, you do realize that the High Council is going to assign you to negotiate with every difficult species from now on, correct? I know, Commander. But after dealing with humans, how hard can anyone else be? Vrax chuckled. That is a fair point, sir. Over the next 6 months, the changes accelerated. The Treaty of Earth became a model for other species. The Empire established trade partnerships with 40 different systems that had previously been occupied territories. Several rebellious species stopped rebelling once they were offered fair partnerships instead of military occupation. The economic benefits were staggering. Trade increased by 300%. Innovation exploded as different species shared ideas freely instead of hoarding them. The Empire's military budget decreased by 40% because they no longer needed massive occupation forces. And then there were the unexpected benefits. The joint human-Zintharian research programs led to breakthroughs in medicine, energy production, and environmental restoration. Human engineers improved Empire technology across the board. Empire scientists taught humans about technologies they had never imagined. It was cooperation on a scale never seen before in the galaxy. The restaurant chain Galaxy Burgers expanded to 200 planets. The human sport of zero-gravity basketball became the most popular game in the Empire. Human movies and books became bestsellers. Empire music and art became popular on Earth. But perhaps the strangest change was in the Empire Senate. The august body of leaders who had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years was now engaged in a fierce debate that had been going on for 2 months. The topic? Whether a human movie called Die Hard was a Christmas movie. The arguments were passionate. Some senators insisted that any movie set during Christmas was a Christmas movie. Others argued that the Christmas setting was merely incidental to the plot. Still others claimed that the true meaning of Christmas made it irrelevant whether the movie was technically a Christmas movie or not. The debate had become so intense that actual legislation was being delayed. High Chancellor Vexnor had tried to end the discussion 3 times. Each time the senators refused. They were having too much fun. Kel'Thuzor watched the debate from the gallery, shaking his head in amazement. 6 months ago, these same senators had been discussing conquest and military operations. Now they were arguing about human holiday movies. Secretary General Santos sat next to him, also watching the debate.